Nuclear-powered aircraft carriers are America's pride, the epitome of its power. But recently, with the emergence of hypersonic missiles, there's been talk of the decline of these superships. That's partly true, but writing off aircraft carriers worth billions of dollars each is premature. The U.S. seems to have found a way to increase their power so that they continue to be deadly to any of America's adversaries, including such high-tech powers as Russia and China. What is that way? To place on aircraft carriers sixth-generation fighters equipped not only with hypersonic missiles, but also with combat lasers. What will this aircraft be? We'll tell you about it now. It's going to be interesting. The world is increasingly talking about the creation of sixth-generation fighters. They're usually seen not so much as a replacement for the fifth generation, but as a complement to it. Prospective winged vehicles will have to replace such aircraft as the F-15 and F-18, and possibly the more modern European Typhoon and Rafale. This issue is being most actively studied in the United States. It is American specialists who've come closer to understanding what such an airplane should be like. The experience of creating a single fifth-generation fighter for the Air Force, Navy, and Marines, the Lockheed Martin F-35 Lightning II, made it possible to assume the maximum degree of unification for different branches of the U.S. Armed Forces, and in the case of the prospective machine. However, this is not going to happen. According to the authoritative publication Popular Mechanics, the next fighter for the Navy will be designed exclusively for the fleet and will be created without taking into account the requirements of other types of troops. The unknown aircraft, tentatively named FA-XX, is expected to replace the FA-18EF Super Hornet fighter on aircraft carrier decks in the 2030s. According to a new statement from the Navy, the fleet fighter will be conceptually different from the aircraft being built for the Air Force. The requirements for the Navy vehicle do not include strict regulations for operating in enemy airspace. The military's reluctance to unify is understandable. After all, naval modifications of the F-35 turned out, to put it mildly, not very well. First, the maximum speed of the F-35B and F-35C is noticeably lower than that of the F-35A, designed for the Air Force 1,450 kilometers an hour versus 1,930 kilometers an hour, or 900 miles per hour versus 1,200 miles per hour. Second, the F-35B weighs 14,729 kilograms, and the F-35C weighs 15,686 kilograms, and the F-35A has only 13,290 kilograms. This has led to the fact that, for example, the F-35C accelerates to supersonic for as much as 19 seconds more than its land-based counterpart. In addition, it cannot fly at supersonic speed for a long time. The radio-absorbing coating starts to fall off and it becomes visible on radar. The desire for unification is understandable to reduce the cost of the F-35 program, but considering that the cost has already exceeded $1.5 trillion, and former U.S. President Trump said that the cost of the F-35 is out of control, there's little faith in this savings. The Pentagon took all these mistakes into account, and now we see that the sixth-generation airplanes for the Air Force and aircraft carriers will be different. Even their project is called differently. For the Air Force, it is the Next Generation Air Dummy POPSI, abbreviated NGAD, while the Naval NGAD is named, as we've already said, FA-XX. So what will the FA-XX be like? The U.S. Navy is keeping the project under wraps. So far, the sixth-generation fighter appears simply as FA-XX. Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and Boeing are competing for the contract. This was officially reported in the Navy. By the way, there's a very high probability that the Maritime NGAD project will be implemented by a company other than the one that will win a similar tender from the U.S. Air Force. Besides, the work under both programs, including its unmanned components, will surely be enough for all potential applicants, even if not in the role of the main contractor. First of all, the sixth generation is expected to increase all major tactical and technical characteristics. The possibility of achieving hypersonic speeds and increasing the range and altitude of flight is being seriously discussed. For this purpose, it's necessary to develop a fundamentally new engine. For example, the fourth-generation fighters, which have been developed since 1975, including the F-15, F-16, and FA-18, differ from the third-generation machines by twin-circuit turbojet engines with reduced fuel consumption. The sixth generation is predicted to already be a three-circuit adaptive engine, providing a significant increase in thrust and reduced fuel consumption. Technologies aimed at reducing visibility for any means of detection will certainly be used. These will need to take into account advances in radar technology that could reduce the effectiveness of stealth technologies. At the level of discussions, there's also a reduction of optical visibility through fundamentally new systems. Avionics will be of paramount importance. It's proposed to use already known ideas and solutions, such as maximum automation of processes, radars with AFAR, placement of antenna devices in different parts of the airframe, etc. It's also necessary to introduce elements of artificial intelligence, additionally relieving the pilot's workload. Of course, the armament of the sixth-generation fighter will have enhanced characteristics compared to the existing aircraft armament. First of all, it's a long-range air-to-air missile being developed by Boeing as part of the Long-Range Air-to-Air Missile Program, or LRAM for short. Its key feature is the presence of an additional stage, which separates at a certain part of the flight, providing increased maneuverability and speed on the approach to the target compared to a single-stage missile. Recall that now the main air-to-air missile of the U.S. Air Force is the AIM-120 AMRAAM, Advanced Medium-Range Air-to-Air Missile, adopted in 1991. It's designed to engage air targets beyond the line of sight. The range of AIM-120, according to unofficial data, is from 75 to 100 miles or up to 160 kilometers. In addition, the possibility of introducing fundamentally new weapons such as combat lasers is being discussed. The need for an integrated cannon is a matter of debate. The concept of an optionally piloted aircraft is very popular. Depending on the task at hand, the new generation fighter can be controlled by a pilot from the cockpit or by an operator from an external console. Removing the pilot will provide an increase in some of the flight performance and combat qualities. Optionally manned aircraft will be able to operate both independently and in conjunction with a controlled fighter with a crew on board. Curiously, not necessarily having a pilot on board is proposed as one of the key criteria for sixth generation. Retired Rear Admiral Gregory Harris, who headed the U.S. Navy's Air Operations Directorate until June 2021, said the aircraft following the FA-18 Super Hornet will likely be manned, but the NGAD program will include a mix of both manned and unmanned platforms. He went on to say that if we look at it right now, NGAD is a family of systems centered around the FA-XX. But if we really see NGAD as more than just a single airplane, unmanned platforms, he said, are seen as auxiliary not only for special missions, reconnaissance, electronic warfare, long-range radar detection, but also in the long term, also combat missions to engage air, surface, and ground targets. Speaking of the sixth-generation airplane, it's impossible not to talk about unmanned aerial vehicles which it can control. The presence of such a function is now already considered mandatory for sixth-generation machines. Unfortunately, however, the Russians have already been able to implement this concept for their fifth-generation fighter, Su-57. It has a winged, unmanned aerial vehicle, Su-70 Hunter. And on its vivid example, we can visualize what a fighter plus a winged drone will look like in reality. According to the data, the takeoff weight of the Hunter will be 25 tons, of which 2.8 tons will have to arm, the wingspan of the drone will be 19 meters, the length of the machine 14 meters. At low altitude, UAV should be able to reach a speed of 1,400 kilometers an hour or 870 miles per hour. The range of flight will be 5,000 kilometers or 3,100 miles. As we can see, we're now facing a drone and its weight and size characteristics is not inferior to the F-35, only it has a range of 2 times greater. Some experts even believe that the Su-70 Hunter is a prototype of the Russian 6th generation fighter. It's noteworthy that the Russian Su-70 drone looks very similar to Boeing's FA-XX concept. A bundle of 20 to 30 attack drones covered by 2 or 3 maneuverable fighters will be able to cause irreparable damage to the infrastructure of a potential enemy. In June 2023, Turkish media reported that Russia used the Su-70 Hunter for the first time against Ukraine. It's noted that the drone was used to strike targets in the Sumy region. In the United States in August 2022, Air Force Secretary Frank Kendall confirmed preliminary discussions by Boeing about the purchase of the MQ-28 Ghostbat unmanned aerial vehicle under the NGAD program, which was developed by Boeing Australia. The Australian Army wants these drones by 2024 to 2025 and are planned to be combined with FA-18 Super Hornet and EA-18G Growler fighter jets. They will be capable of performing multi-role missions together. The MQ-28 drones could also serve as protectors of high-value aircraft, the KC-30 refueling tanker, or the E-7 Wedgetail long-range radio detection aircraft. Frank Kendall also testified that a manned version of the new 6th generation, next generation air dominance family of systems will likely operate 5 drones simultaneously. The dimensions of the MQ-28 are completely similar to a light fighter jet. It's 11 meters or 36 feet long and has a wingspan of 11.7 meters or 38 feet. The claimed range is 3,700 kilometers or 2,300 miles. Payload, speed, and other parameters have not been disclosed yet. The vehicle's built with stealth technology. So what will the decks of American aircraft carriers look like shortly? In all likelihood, they'll be filled with tailless drones with a rare speck of larger 6th generation fighters with cockpits, but also tailless. You must agree that this is still an unfamiliar picture for us. The importance of the 6th generation naval fighter program is demonstrated by the fact that the U.S. Navy is requesting an additional $1.53 billion for fiscal year 2024 to support the development of the next generation F/A-XX fighter. This is reported by the publication The War Zone. It's emphasized that this is the first time that the U.S. Navy openly requested a specific amount for the development of the largely classified F/A-XX fighter. It's currently unknown how much money has already been allocated for the development of the all-new fighter, but based on total research costs, about 5% will go exclusively to the F/A-XX program. For comparison, in fiscal year 2024, the U.S. Navy is requesting $26.9 billion for research and development. The publication cites the comparison that $1.5 billion is requested for the F/A-XX fighter jet, while $545 million for the next generation attack submarine and $187 million for the next generation destroyer. Well, let's hope that by the mid-30s, that is, when according to many political analysts, the confrontation between the West and the global South will finally take shape, American aircraft carriers will already carry 6th generation fighters surrounded by powerful strike drones on their decks. The countdown has already begun from February 24th, 24, when Russia attacked Ukraine. There's no time to delay. What do you think about 6th generation fighters in the upcoming global confrontation? Write about it in your comments below. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click on the bell so you don't miss new videos about modern weaponry. We hope you have a great day, and we'll see you soon.